Welcome, everyone. We are excited to have you today. We have our Name It to Tame It workshop. So this is a different kind of workshop from our usual. We're going to only take 15 minutes, and the goal is to actually learn a therapy skill in those 15 minutes today. As we go through it, please let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to pop them in the chat. And as always, if you need to hop off early, we'll be sending the recording out after the session is done. So if you need to log off early, you'll still be getting the content to your inbox. So with that, we are going to dive right in. So again, today is Name It to Tame It. The goal is to help offer a therapy tool that is going to help navigate stressors and emotional overwhelm. And we are tying this right before the holidays because it is a very helpful tool, especially heading into the holiday season. Though admittedly, I use this tool year-round, almost weekly with my clients. And so before we dive into the tool, I want to kind of set the stage here. So we're talking about this today because emotions show up in surprising ways. And so that's why we want to introduce this tool. And so some examples that I hear frequently are things like, oh, I started crying, but I don't know why. Like I wasn't feeling sad, but all of a sudden I was crying. Or something I hear a lot from my clients is like, I felt off, I felt weird. And that's fair, but often weird are pretty big and vague and can mean a lot of things, right? And if we can't figure out why, that sometimes is bothersome. Sometimes we have a physical reaction to something that happens or a comment someone makes and we don't really know why that's happening. Or sometimes, and this one's especially in the holidays, right? If you ever get an unexpected gift or an expensive gift and we like the gift and we're excited about it and feel honored that they gave it to us, but we still feel somewhat uneasy, right? So these are just a few examples, but I'm talking about them because these sensations or some of that kind of like confusion, right, about what's going on, we can probably get a lot of insight there from emotions and from kind of digging deeper and trying to be more precise with the emotions that are showing up. So for example, if you ever start crying but you don't feel sad, it's not uncommon for me to hear that people start crying when they're angry. I hear this especially from folks raised as women, right, who are like, well, I wasn't modeled like lashing out, and that's not something I want to do, right? But then I also feel stuck and I feel angry and I don't know what I do with that emotion. And then I just start crying, right? And not that they're having that thought process in the moment, but that's what we talk about in sessions sometimes. It can happen for a lot of other things. When people feel anxious, they cry. Crying is a form of stress relief, right? And so that's why sometimes it's happening when we don't feel sad. But the question is still, what is it? What is it that's overwhelming us or having us go to that kind of form of stress relief? Same thing when something feels off, right? It doesn't feel good to not know why we're not feeling great. And then with the name of the workshop, right, Name It to Tame It, the whole goal here is to think about, well, how do I get a little bit more nitty gritty with that so that I can do something about it? Even if we're not going to just like ignore the emotion, right? Or it's not going to magically go away. The question is, how do I want to sit with it? And how do I get more specific? Same with a physical reaction. For some folks, when something makes us feel anxious, they feel really tight. For some people, anger makes them feel hot or uncomfortable or energized. For other folks, if they're feeling disappointed, it can make them feel really tired and lethargic. So that might be where some of those sensations are coming from. And then with our gift example, right? Maybe folks really like the gift and feel honored, but they feel uneasy because maybe they feel inadequate, that they didn't think to buy a gift for this person, right? Or if it's something really expensive that's out of their budget range, maybe it makes them feel a little bit inferior, even if they still really appreciate and respect the fact that someone got them that gift. Because we can be holding multiple emotions at once, right? It can be complex. And so that's why it's helpful to start naming some of these things, because then we can start to feel not that we're going to have control over them, but more like we can manage them in a way that feels good to us and meets our values. Because to my point earlier, right, for most of us, it does not feel good to lash out when we are angry, but it's hard if we don't even realize that we're angry and it's just happening, like it's a storm that's taking over us all of a sudden. And so first, naming the emotion is what's going to help us slow down and figure out what we need to take care of ourselves and how we want to act about it. And so the tool that we're talking about today is the emotion wheel. If you are a therapy goer that's here today, I'm guessing that this is probably pretty familiar. There are a zillion different tools out there that look like this, but different people have different interpretations of it. All the ones that I have seen are really great. I used to even have one printed on a pillow in my therapy office because they are very, very popular. And because, as I'm sort of hinting to right in the beginning, is nuance matters when it comes to understanding what is going on for ourselves. So for example, if I am thinking to myself, oh, I'm feeling sad, right? We see sad on that kind of inner ring. And it's like, I'm feeling sad, but I don't really know why, right? Well, then we can kind of drill down. Is it because I'm feeling hurt? Or am I disappointed? Or am I feeling shame or guilt, right? Are any of those things making me feel sad? And those are really different, right? Feeling guilty is very different than feeling hurt about something. And so that's why it's helpful to sort of drill down. I'll take another one here, right? So if we look at anger, right? Is it that I am really jealous and envious of what's going on and that's giving me this feeling? Or do I feel exasperated and frustrated, right? And again, sort of drilling down and naming it helps us. It also helps it feel a little bit less overwhelming, like, yes, okay, what I'm feeling is that I am exasperated because I've done this a lot of times. And so that makes it less overwhelming, right? Helps us figure out what we need to move through that feeling, which I'll say a little bit more of in a minute or two here. But the idea, right, is that, if we are people pleasers and we feel uncomfortable, sometimes our tendency is to say yes to things immediately, right? And so the sooner we can pick up on the feeling we're having, which is that maybe we feel inferior or anxious, and that's leading us to say yes, the quicker we can notice it and practice using this wheel to help identify it, that slows us down to not lean towards those habits of, I'm just going to say yes, even if later I'm going to be exhausted. The other thing is that we don't want to judge our emotions, right? Our emotions show up for a bunch of different reasons, right? Our experiences, how things feel in our bodies. And so even if an emotion is there, we don't want to try to judge it away, like, oh, we don't need to feel that right now, because that doesn't actually help. And so again, I'll bring this back a little bit at the end. Another thing to remember is what we call the 90-second rule. So research shows that feelings peak at 90 seconds. Neuroscientists found, right, that initial chemical reaction, really like that peak of it, that climax happens at 90 seconds, and then it starts to dissipate. And so if we can name the emotion we're feeling, it is helpful to remember that like the peak will be at 90 seconds. And I'm not saying that doesn't mean it's not going to change your mood, right? Sometimes it does impact our mood and it feels longer than that. But it is a helpful reminder if it's like, whoa, I'm overwhelmed, I don't even know what's going on or what I want to do about it, right? 90 seconds is a period, right, where you can say, okay, I'm actually just going to go to the bathroom, like go sit in the bathroom for 3 minutes, wait for the peak of this feeling to pass and assess what I want to do from there when it feels like I have a little bit more agency over it and I feel a little bit more ready to work with it versus when it's really overwhelming and big. So I'm talking about things to do when we're recognizing the emotions, but when we are thinking about the wheel, right? One way to do it is, let's say you are at a holiday gathering, right? And a loved one says something like, oh, are you dating anyone, right? And internally you start to get like an uncomfortable, unhappy feeling, maybe, right? Or maybe you feel tense in your body. And you don't know why, because the person is looking at you and asking you a question and showing interest in your life, but yet you're having this reaction, right? And so it's helpful at that moment to be able to identify what's going on. And maybe you won't be able to do it right in that conversation, right? Maybe it'll be like the answer, no, I'm not right now. And then you change the topic. But if you're still feeling really uncomfortable, that's when you can take a step away and look at the emotion wheel and say to yourself, okay, give myself a second to reset. Where did that come from? Is it because I'm feeling in the fear category, insecure, inadequate, inferior? Is it something else? Is it that I am feeling jealousy, right, of the folks that do have that right now? Is it something else altogether, right? Am I feeling really lonely and isolated? And that question makes me feel more isolated. And so that helps because that helps us reframe what's going on, right? Because if in that moment you're like, well, I don't really want to just like be mad at this person for asking me a question all night long, or I don't want to ice them out just because they made me uncomfortable, but I can't figure out why they made me uncomfortable. So I also don't really want to engage with them. Sometimes that leaves us feeling trapped. So then if you can drill down like, oh yeah, these are the things, then you can go back into engaging with that person, go back for another conversation. And if you notice the territory going in a direction that makes you feel inferior, to have, first of all, connection with that person and also take care of yourself, that's when you can start to notice, oh, yep, that feeling's coming up. And then you can kind of reroute and say like, oh, I don't really want to talk about that right now. I'm really excited to talk about like what we are making this holiday season or what are your traditions, right? And then you can kind of reroute where you might still be feeling those feelings, but you are again thinking about, okay, I can honor that they're there and respect that I want to move through them in a way that still lets me connect with my family, right? So that's just one example. And so again, the more we can verbalize what's going on for ourselves, the more we can look at this tool. Sometimes it's not in the moment, but even at the end of our day to just be like, okay, what emotions did I feel? How do I build more mindfulness around this? The easier it is for us to move through them. So our next slide here is the emotion sensation wheel. This is one of my favorite ones. It's inspired by Lindsay Brahman, who is both a therapist and a graphic artist. And this one, as you'll see, has emotions on the inside and sensations on the outside. And this is a really helpful tool because sometimes we feel our feelings somatically, or in other words, in our bodies, right? Like I said earlier, sometimes anger makes people feel really hot or energized. Sometimes when we're anxious, we feel really tight, right? Maybe if we're happy, we feel really free and loose. And so this is helpful because if we're not really sure how to identify some of these emotions in ourselves, just using the emotion words, then we can start to notice, okay, what is the sensation? Where is it on the wheel? And is that the feeling that I'm feeling that's tied to it? I will say with the emotion sensation wheel, I noticed that for a lot of my folks, you know, a lot of people feel similarly, like that tightness with anxiety, but that doesn't happen for everybody. And so it's okay if you look at an emotion sensation wheel and you're like, hey, I see that word there, but that doesn't really resonate with me. That's okay, right? We all feel things in our bodies differently. Then it's just a time for curiosity and exploration of, okay, where does this lie for me? What kind of sector do I think that this one is in? And so this is helpful for everybody. I also want to put out there that this tool tends to be extra helpful for my neurodivergent folks who have a little bit of a harder time naming and recognizing emotions, but are very skilled at noticing the feelings in their body. So that's the emotion sensation wheel. And before we go to our last slide, I just want to let you know we will be sending both of these wheels out in the follow-up email with the recording, so you can actually use them this holiday season. And so with that, I kind of want to summarize how to use the wheel for folks. You can do this in a lot of different ways. It can be in the moment. Sometimes, like I said, you could step out to a bathroom or a private space if you feel really overwhelmed by emotion and you need to use the tool to kind of center yourself and figure out what's going on. Or it could be at the end of the day, again, to just try to build more mindfulness about these things. And so you can print them out. A lot of people save a picture on their phones is what I notice. But what we do is first, we're going to recognize what's going on within ourselves. And again, you can start at that center ring because the design of the wheel is that those emotions in the center are the ones that we're taught to recognize most often. So they're usually the easiest to recognize. And then you can go out from that center ring and figure out, okay, if I want to get more nuanced and more specific, what is it, right? And then let's see those emotions as data. They're not good or bad. So you can ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? What do I need while I move through this? Do I just need a few moments to myself? Do I need to go ask them not to talk about this topic again because it's hard for me, right? Do I need something else entirely? Like I'm just going to go take a bubble bath and relax? And then the other question is, how do I want to move through it, right? So if you are really angry or are these things and you don't, you're sitting there and you're like, well, I don't want to do something that goes against my values. That's a good question too of how do I want to move through it? Do I want to tackle this solo? Is this something that I need to talk to somebody about? Or do I just want a buddy? Like, do I want to go to my cousin that I'm close with and be like, hey, this conversation topic keeps coming up and it's hard for me. Can you help me reroute this when it shows up? And then the last one is to practice self-compassion and remember not to judge yourself, right? I have Inside Out here for those of you that have seen the movie, right? It's a great example of why we don't want to judge our feelings because when joy tries to push sadness in the corner, right, and doesn't want to experience sadness, sadness keeps popping back up stronger and stronger every time, right? And it's a really good analogy for what's going on for ourselves because we can storyline our emotions and offer self-compassion and not judge them. Like, oh, it makes sense that question, if we go back to the dating example, right? It makes sense that question made you feel a little bit inferior because this has been a hard topic for you. And at the same time, I can hold that my family member was just trying to connect with me. And I'm not actually mad at them for that. So I'll just hold that in mind and take care of myself as I keep moving forward. And so again, feelings aren't good or bad. They're just information. And per the name of the workshop, right, if we can identify them, it can help us determine how we want to show up in what's going on and have them feel a lot less overwhelming. So that is the therapy tool. I don't expect you all to be experts after one quick session of it. But if just one thing in there piqued your interest, maybe play with it a little bit. See how it is helpful for you. A lot of people use it in different ways. Also happy to answer any questions. I know we're at time, so if you have to hop off, no worries. But while I let folks submit questions, I have a couple of other announcements. We do have other workshops coming up. We have our Beyond Resolutions workshop coming up, and I am really excited for this one. We're going to look back on 2025 and what worked for us, what didn't. We're going to look forward to 2026 and what we want to keep in mind. And the hope is to find goals that are actually sustainable for us and make us feel good and are attainable, unlike resolutions, which we tend to drop. We'll also be sharing a mindfulness meditation for the holiday season. Right now, we're looking at dealing with feelings of grief and loss through meditation, so that'll be coming your way. Our therapists are here to help, and we have a lot of on-demand workshops as well for the holidays. I mean, the holidays are filled with joy and connection and all these other great things, but for some of us, it can be really hard, right? It can be hard if we're having a hard time with disordered eating, right? If we are getting overstimulated, if we are going through grief, if we're just feeling alone, right? And so we have a lot of resources for you all. And if you need extra support through the season, or you want some extra support just to be able to tap into more of that joy and connection, please feel free to reach out and let us know. So with that, I think that we are all set for today. If you have any questions as you're watching this, also feel free to email our team. We can get answers to you. And we do hope you enjoy the holiday season. Hope things go well for you all, and we'll be around if you need anything. Have a good one.